bring us down. Jackie Treehorn treats objects like women, man. We love to lead with The Big Lebowski because it's one of our favorite movies here, and we like to talk about it here on the Good Talk podcast. We're very excited tonight. We are actually bringing to you, all of our wonderful listeners, our very first guest. He is an astronomer, a geologist, and an educator here in North Dakota. James, welcome to the podcast. This is James Owens.
Hey, thank you for having me, guys.
Hey, man, thanks for being here. So one thing we like to do when we open up, and I know you listened to a little bit of one of our shows before you came on, so you knew what you were coming into. We are going to take a katana and slice your head in half and fill it with crazy questions that are just impossibly terribly difficult to answer.
That sounds like my kind of
Are you ready for that?
Absolutely.
Like, we're going to put you in Pandora's box and rip your soul apart.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay, Rob, I'm going to open with the first question. I'm going to let you lead. You can take the last question. I know you like the final question. Rob's kind of the final question guy. So we're going to bend right into it. Tacos or wings? Nobody goes and watches football eating fucking tacos.
No.
And I know you're a big football guy.
Yeah, it's got to be wings. It's got to be wings.
Just like that.
There's a diverse flavor profile you can bring with wings, and I feel like you only get the one key flavor profile with a taco.
I think you are underestimating the variable flavor profiles of tacos here, sir.
There's been a dramatic leap forward in taco technology as of late, and we're experiencing we're experiencing a bit of a renaissance in taco experience.
I knew a guy who was a taco Jedi, and he might disagree with you here.
Best title
now,
ever.
how do you become a taco Jedi?
That's a quest and a story for another time.
Taco trials, sir. I would imagine.
It definitely starts with the taco trials. That's part of it. You're a taco Padawan first, I'll promise you that.
For sure.
So James is going straight wings. I think football has an influence there.
Oh, it sure does. I mean,
Okay.
you think about your Sunday afternoons, and what do you see on the platter in front of you as you watch your favorite team hopefully crush the opponent? And I see wings, I see pizza, I see chips and dip with a nice can of whatever.
A hefty slice of Americana.
A hefty slice of Americana. I mean, football is at its core American.
I fucking love chips and dip. All right, man. You're there with the first question on the Goodtalk5. And remember, folks, if you want to engage with us, you can hit us on Twitter at the Goodtalk5. Talk about these questions. Let us know how you would answer them. We would love to hear that. You can also find us on Facebook and the Goodtalk5. The Goodtalk podcast is now available on iTunes. We're also excited about that. Rub, what question are we going to slam his soul with here second time around?
Let's see. I've been digging at some existential questions.
He's been practicing at these questions.
And really, it has to do with the direction that you'd like to see humanity take. In this question, would you yourself, again, only one of these two answers. I know you probably would like to see something else entirely.
No third options.
But there are no third options. We've been here. We've discussed this. The question that I would like to ask you would be, would you like to see rather an end to war or an end to poverty?
Ooh.
That's interesting because in a way I believe they are intertwined.
That's sort of why I asked that question. I feel like they do have a tremendous effect on each other.
They do because I believe we are becoming, at least I hope, civilized. And
certainly.
In a civilized world, there is no need for war.
Right.
And as we become more understanding as a human race, you would hope that we could see the sense in not having wars. I think it's pretty juvenile at its core.
But most wars these days tend to be ideological, and clearly war does not extinguish ideology. In fact, it tends to reinforce.
Yeah, it really does feel it, and you see it in the world today, even after we have entered the Middle East and have created more conflict than when we started.
That is
the war.
Best answer ever.
Well, I think it's a fantastic answer, and when you really want to analyze that question a little bit, ultimately, ending poverty cannot lead to an end for war.
Right.
Really, it won't.
Not in and of itself, no.
No. Whereas I think
there needs to be a far more altruistic mission to mankind than just simply ending poverty, as that still constitutes that we are a slave to money in a monetary system, and that really is always going to create shortage.
Yeah, you took that right away from me. I think as long as we have money and as long as our intentions are fueled with that greed, it'll be hard to escape war.
Right.
Altogether, as much
as
I mean,
I don't have a better system in mind, or have I conceived of a better idea than money at this current juncture? No, but I have to feel that there's a greater goal in mind here, and it doesn't necessarily include the idea of a monetary society.
If it were that simple, it would have been thought of already by the greatest minds of this world.
Definitely not me. I'm just some kind of dummy over here.
Well, maybe it has been thought of already, but somebody extinguished the idea because it was going to fuck with their position.
Well, where there is money, there is voice, and where there is voice, there is power.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. So, James, and you're ending war then.
I'm ending war.
I'm ending war.
I'll go with war. I'll buy that.
So, sticking with, we'll kind of go with some more of these abstract. I had one. Would you rather be the worm on the hook or the fish getting fucking snagged and yanked around by your face all over the fucking ocean floor when you're happily hanging out in your realm?
I'd like to take a little bit of pride and be the fish, because when I'm a worm, my whole life has been...
It's simple. It's easy.
Yeah,
I
that
was
proverbial
bred to
pawn
be,
now.
I was bred to be bait.
Yeah,
Folks, I might need to take a break here already. Wow.
Worms serve a much higher purpose than bait. I mean, they're out there making the soil work, and you know they produce our food and
from
like
an organic
from like
level. Without the worm, we have no life.
There's
you're
nothing.
a geologist.
There's
You know that way better than I could ever explain that.
Without earthworms, the soil in which we grow our crops, it would not be near as rich, especially in an agricultural rich state like North Dakota. We need to appreciate the earthworm.
We need the worms.
As important as like
Most
a
underrated-
mycelium.
Underrated organism on this planet, the earthworm. Calling it right here on this podcast.
I love
today.
the most
The noble-
underrated organism
the
on the
noble
planet, the
earthworm.
noble worm. I guess I think, I wouldn't want to be a fish in this, and there's no third option, so I can't pick a third option, and I'm not going to be a fucking fish. I'd rather just be plucked from my happy little life, smashed onto a hook, because listen, like when the fisherman casts you, you could split into two and fly off that hook, and then there's two of you. You became twins. Like right there. A fish can't do that.
You're not get eaten by two fish.
That's a fair point.
Or you sink happily to the bottom and you just hang out there on the
Food
bottom
for
of the
other
sea.
earthworms.
Food,
It's a circle of life.
right?
It's actually kind of beautiful.
Well, it is, and I think that is much simpler and happier for me than getting ripped around by my face by some asshole swinging a Budweiser, barely hanging out in the fridge, like using a bobber. You know, you're gonna get snagged by a guy using a bobber.
Got the old classic red and white, big like round bobber on the end of his line.
For sure, not even
That mental image that I think we all have,
Oh,
definitely.
sure. Sitting on the back of the boat, it's
Cans of old Milwaukee askew inside the boat.
Sorry, fisherman.
It's a very powerful metaphor for my youth right there.
absolutely.
No, that's awesome. So James is going fish.
Yes.
It's a good answer. It's a good
Rub,
answer.
you're going.
I'll go fish. I'll absolutely go fish. I'm on board with this 100%.
I'm going worm.
Yeah, I get that. I got the vibe right away that you were going worm with this.
Yeah,
one.
I think I hope that if I'm the worm, I hope
don't mean
my
to
hook
detract.
gets you in the eyeball before you go up. So, there.
I don't mean to detract from the noble earthworm theory that we put forth earlier, but
That crashed quickly, didn't it? All right, we're 3 questions deep here. I like how James is rolling with this.
This is
What's
fun.
next? I'm going to take question 4 because I know you want to close with something crazy, and this is it. Now, this is kind of a superpower. Not all these are crazy, existential, world-changing questions, but this one, it's pretty simple. A lot of people have talked about this. Would you rather be a vampire or a werewolf? Now, werewolf, you still obviously get to enjoy sunlight. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go with the werewolf option where you get to transform. You're not. That's because it's better that way.
Yeah, you're not stuck in
only
werewolf form
only
at
a
all
full
times.
moon type thing, or can we be like a Hulk, where if we just get into a state of mind, do we become the werewolf, or strictly
Super fair.
we're sticking to
Are we sticking
classic
with the-
lore of full moon?
I think I would stick with classic lore, aside from not having control over it, because I think
that's
I don't think
why
you-
I would want.
that's the classic form is just like it's only during full moon.
Yeah,
No,
you can't have
right.
control over that. Once
No.
you see the
I'm
full
going
moon, you're in the
control.
werewolf. That's the classic paradigm of
In-
werewolves.
I
is
don't know how
that-
I feel about that.
Yeah, I want to break that paradigm from the wolf, and I'm saying you can transform right into a werewolf.
Oh, at will.
In moonlight, as
In
long
moonlight.
as there's moonlight.
But you can choose to or not to.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, that's better.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
that's way better.
That's tough. I think there's perks to both sides here, but I think I'm going to go with a werewolf. I'd rather not be harmed by garlic. It's
Oh my God! Right?
I think it's a very
Well, food's not going to matter at all when you're a vampire. Like
Garlic,
the
though.
whole concept of food just is lost when you
Good
become
point.
a vampire.
That's a good point.
You don't get to enjoy food anymore.
See,
Werewolves
give
might
and
enjoy
take.
food.
That's why we do this.
yeah.
Like-
If I'm a werewolf, I could still enjoy a nice meal from time to time.
No, but you're not, and you might live longer. But I don't think werewolves don't have like the immortality factor of a vampire.
No.
Like where vampires
to my
are going.
knowledge, they don't.
No, so
Are we talking
vampires
Bram
going for it.
Stoker, Dracula here? Are we talking?
Pretty. I mean, well, with the vampire, yeah, you're. It's sure as fuck not sunlight Twilight vampires.
No, it is not.
No offense. It's
Bigger,
lot.
There will be no sparkling
I-
in here.
Like when the first movie I think of usually when I think of vampires, and this is probably because I'm a child of the '80s, but it's The Lost Boys.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
That's my first vision. Bram Stoker's is usually second.
Yeah. See, I grew up in the '90s, and there besides Stoker, there wasn't a whole lot of vampire.
Interview with the Vampire. That was probably it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of vampire. I mean, if you want.
Unrealistically good-looking vampires there.
Yeah, and today we've turned the vampire into some sort of a sex symbol.
Kinda. I mean, at least in the Lost Boys, they were sexy figures, but they were savage. They were
they were
violent.
still savage
they
at their core.
cruel.
I mean, is it
They were
old
taking
guy,
the-
is it old guys like us that are clinging to the past, what we think vampires are? Or
There's got to be something to do with that for sure.
there has to
for
be.
sure.
Because when I say like, oh, vampires today are such a disgrace, I feel like I'm 50 years old.
Yeah, get off my lawn.
That's hilarious. Get off my lawn. That's I mean, everyone I think will eventually get trapped in some sort of get off my lawn situation like that.
Absolutely.
It's hard to
inevitable.
avoid.
Yeah,
No, you
because
can't do it.
we are comfortable with our ways.
Yeah.
And change is a scary thing sometimes. We see change, we want to be like, we want to instantly point
Get
that
off
out.
my lawn.
Just get off my lawn. you know?
No, we do.
Damn kids with your music.
Listen, maybe it's because they take their influence from me, but my kids sure as heck thought the Lost Boys was more awesome than Twilight.
I could see that with
Lost
you
Boys
guys.
was a powerful experience. I
Your
think that
kids-
should transcend a long time. That really should
It carries
hold
the test
up.
of time.
It
Yeah.
should hold up better than it is, because if I asked the teenager right now what the Lost Boys were, they wouldn't be able to tell me.
Probably not.
Probably not, unless you were a child of Joe Lanto.
So, James, you're going werewolf?
Fine point.
I'm
Werewolf
gonna go
for you?
werewolf. Yep. But I
Rob?
see the merits of a vampire too.
The contrarian in me, I've been agreeing so far. I'm going to go vampire. You're going to have to give me a minute to defend that, or we can just move on.
We
can just
we
move
can
on.
move on. It's fine.
I
You
can
don't have to
defend myself in a
but
later
you want
time.
the immortality. So you have such a tough time
I
with that
chose time
immortality.
travel over immortality
You did.
last time.
That was
so
that was a great segment, by the way.
Thank you.
I think your last episode was the best episode so far. I really enjoyed it.
number 4.
Yeah.
Oh wow, the one
I
after
liked it.
after the
Where we
Shane
did the
Moss
apply
show?
magic
I
sauce
like,
and the
and maybe it was
psychology.
because you guys talked about interdimensions and like multiverses.
I think that was
Nope,
episode
that was
3.
episode 3.
episode
That's
three.
fine.
Yeah,
Yep,
listen
that was
to them all.
episode 3. No, that's great.
I've listened to
Hey,
them all.
But that's
you
my-
guys, you don't have to listen to all of our episodes to join us or be here, but
No.
yeah, no, we love it that you heard some of it, and that we fucking love that segment.
I
too.
felt
It's a
really
fun
good
question.
about that
Loved
one
it, time
myself.
travel.
Yes.
Loved it.
Getting into the extra dimensions.
That's what
well,
gets me going from a like a mental point of
Yes.
view. Like gets my juices flowing.
Oh, he's speaking my language over here.
I'm gonna go vampire, and I would love to be a werewolf too, but I gotta go vampire because
you give me the option for one, I will take it.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
No, I want vampire. I want the immortality. I don't know. I'm obsessed with that idea.
Becomes the moral question: Why be immortal? That's a bigger spiritual question than anything.
why be-
Not,
yeah.
Not from like a.
What are your motives for wanting immortality?
Yeah, why do you want to be immortal? I
Sure.
think there's plenty of negative drawbacks.
There's
to
a
being immortal.
lot of
There's
it.
a
That has
ton.
nothing to do with spirituality at all.
No, not
The
necessarily.
spirituality doesn't impact my choice of immortality whatsoever.
No, I think you're more
on a
curious
personal
about
level.
the ultimate direction
yes,
and
it's the drive,
destination
it's
of
curiosity, it's
the
desire.
the human condition.
I want to see fucking nanobots getting injected into bloodstreams in 100 years and turning us into these crazy cyborg creatures.
That
I want to
may
be
happen
around for
sooner
that.
than you're thinking.
Of course.
I think it is. And to me, I could never choose immortality for the simple fact that I could not grow to love someone like I'd want to,
Right.
knowing
Yeah, sure.
that I'm going to outlive them, and I'm going to feel that pain over and over and over
I
again.
very much like the metaphor of spending all day on a beautiful beach constructing a sandcastle, really pouring your heart and soul into the intricate details of putting something together like a sandcastle, knowing full well at the end of the day the tide rolls
gonna
in
wash away.
and washes it all away. Does that mean that your time was wasted? I submit no, absolutely.
No,
It does not mean that it
I
was
think
wasted.
the Greeks have
I think that
a good point here too. If you go back to Greek diocese for a second, and if you read a book like the Iliad, where
shout out to Homer.
Yeah, no joke. Homer speaks about how the Greek gods fear and are jealous of the mortality that the humans on Earth have.
Sure.
Because being immortal...
Because of the love they feel. It's more potent.
Being immortal brings all those high points. It makes them so normal.
Do you think being immortal would probably make you jaded?
Oh, sure.
Really, really jaded. Even more
How
than...
can you be passionate? How can you... maybe you could. It would be very subjective.
Does immortality kill passion? Guys, we want to hear from you on that particular question. We're going to move on to the fifth question, but seriously, would immortality kill passion? If you're listening, answer that for us at the Goodtalk5 on Twitter. Let us know what you think, and we are going to let Rub lead us here with our final question on the Goodtalk5 tonight. What do you got for us, my friend?
Well, I've been reading it, and I've seen a lot of articles in the past. This is a very big question that mankind has been tilting its head at for thousands of years, since the very dawn of everything we've began to understand about our nature of consciousness and reality and our relationship to it. It has to do with the question of free will. In your opinion and in your experience, is free will an illusion, or is it something that is palpable and real?
If you're talking from a cultural norm standpoint, then I say it is an illusion.
Right.
If we're talking from a spiritual, not religious, spiritual standpoint, I would
Two different things.
Yeah, I would say that it is not an illusion.
Okay.
I believe my spiritual side is all of my free will, but I believe if you go to a cultural norm right away, you are manipulated in so many ways where free choice is not a chance.
Yeah, but so you have a lot of duality there.
There's a lot of duality.
That's a great answer.
I am really subject to a lot of self-reflection that leads me to being curious about why am I what I am? Not what am I, but why am I this today? Not just why am I who I am? Not the what I am.
Right.
That's a good one too,
what
Rob.
Brought
I know
you
you
here?
like that.
What brought you here?
Yeah. Well, what brought me here? Why do I choose to go this way to work? Or
sure.
why do I like jam music more than metal music when I used to like, or all these different things, right? But so I get sort of caught up into the programming aspect.
Yeah.
Our brain is a hard drive. The programming is everything that's happening around you from day one to the day you fucking die, and all of that. The books you read, the teachers who impact you, your friends who help you or fuck you over, the women you love or don't love, the children you have, the way they make you smile, getting fucking groceries, and the person who smiles at you, all these small, tiny little things are making their little pinpoints on your brain and are impacting your programming. And at what point do you actually have, quote, free will that isn't shaped by all of this programming that you sustain throughout your life?
Almost never.
So I'm against free will then.
It's hard to argue. There's clearly no right or wrong answer at this current point in our understanding.
No, it's a question of semantics. And
it certainly is.
I think it's a cool perspective Jonah just brought to this. We don't stop and reflect on life enough. We take it as a one-way street where there's no rearview mirror, and you can't see what's behind you. But we need to learn to appreciate and reflect on what has happened behind us and what has gotten us here, and I think that's a really cool
introspection is such an enormous and important tool for self-betterment and improvement, moving along this path and not just being stuck in those programmings. Everything that you've been shown to or been told is right and told is wrong, to introspect and really, really hold those things up to the microscope or hold them up to the light and let that shine through. That's so important, at least to me, in my evolution as a person.
I think there's still a fine line between what has brought you to who you are and what has brought you to what you are. I think there's a very fine line there. If you ask me, what has brought me to be who I am?
Correct. Different question. Yeah.
If you ask me about what I am,
Right.
There's an entirely different set of criteria there that you
Completely.
There's a defining line of the ego
Right.
between what you are and who you
Right.
are. Who
And
you
you're-
are is an ego.
and
What you
the
are
inf-
is I don't know.
exactly. And the influences that get you to both points are so drastically different than
Oh yeah.
to who you are. It's mostly organic people influences.
Culture.
Yeah, to me, when I wanted to become a scientist, I listened to people like Stephen Hawking and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Booyah.
I read so much of Copernicus' early work and
Cool.
and Stephen Hawking all the way. That's what really wow, this is really amazing. And I'm sure we'll talk about all of that later in the podcast. But I think it's a good entry point to really understanding the influences that got you where you were.
Again, get these juices flowing here, and we can really get into a conversation. That was...
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's not. People think of influence as simply, what your mother and father did for you, etc. But there are so many layers.
It's not
to
that
that
shallow. Yeah,
no.
it's
And I love to. I don't know. I just want to know what makes people tick and where. And I love both questions, but where Rub, like I said, he likes that. What are we?
Mm-hmm.
I sort of really like how did I become this more so, and that's
a who are you?
yeah.
I'm more on Jonah's side. When I reflect, and you can read about this even in the, and even not to say I subscribe to those beliefs necessarily, but a lot of the early Catholicism mystics,
Gnosticism,
Gnosticism. They talked about what creates you, and what gets you to become yourself, and how do you better yourself, not from a religious standpoint, but from a morality standpoint,
purely functional
standpoint.
Logical standpoint.
Yeah, and those guys knew how to think. That's for sure.
Those waters don't need to be muddy. They
No.
they can be analyzed in a very clear form,
Yes.
and it's by reading. And I like that you brought that up, by reading those early teachings that really don't before all of the actually it's become culture that has muddied that water so
Right.
much. Before a lot of that influence, it was very logical and
Right.
very functional, and it was in that it was almost more psychology than it was spirituality or religion.
Right. Absolutely.
I love it.
I do too, and I think that leads us into a fun section that we can springboard off of. Before we do closing out, I'm against the free will. James,
I'm gonna be most likely against free will as well.
Rub.
I don't think I'm of the opinion that free will does not exist. I think this may have a great deal to do with a playing out of events that were probably already predestined.
Okay, and so we're talking a lot about some of the great thinkers and their influence, and we are here because we are thinkers, and we are looking for ways that we can apply, of course, new thinking to old problems. We love that here. Why do you think it is we can't sort of bridge that gap between what we would call the thinking class of humanity and the working class, and that like the people, I know plenty of people who could give a rat's ass about crawling into the rabbit hole with the who are we, what are we shit that we love it. But guess what? My father-in-law, I love him. He's a great man, hard-working man. Guy can break a horse. He can fix anything you need him to. He don't give a shit.
But he wouldn't care to have this conversation.
No, he wouldn't.
And that's okay.
And that's totally fine. Yeah. But it seems like throughout history, there has been such a gap of disdain between the two groups. And why can't we bridge that? It's like there's this perception from the working class type folks that you snobby people with your fancy words and it's a two-way street, because then you can't even articulate and you can't use your and your or there and there.
How dare you judge me with a first grade education and the inability to spell inability?
Right, but these are all good people at heart. These are all good people that contribute to society.
We need them all.
We need a sociologist to do a study on this. I want to figure out if that's generational or if that is...
I think it's historical.
You think it's historical?
It seems to be an ongoing condition that changes its definitions based on generational gaps. Certainly, what's more pertinent now as opposed to 25 years ago or so on.
Sure. And I think See, I have to think about that because progressive thought, not from a political standpoint, but from a thought standpoint.
Politics completely aside.
Yeah,
Yep.
politics completely aside. Progressive thought is the thought about how we can make each other better. And I feel like the generation of the millennial is more suited for that. But at the same time, I also see the branching out of the working class as I grow higher into my 20s. I definitely see that division starting again. So to figure out where that division starts, you have to pinpoint the agent that causes the split.
And I like that. The agent that caused the split is the fucking library, and and books and fancy words. It's that sometimes an intelligent speaker, if you will, comes across as condescending.
Sure, absolutely.
And I know Rub is like he's always super conscientious about that. He's like pulled me aside before and he's like, dude, I wasn't just like coming across as like some know-it-all prick that time, was I? And I'm like, no, you just you know what you're speaking about and you know how to articulate and present it.
Yeah, and as people, we need to notice the difference between confident talking and condescension, because they're very different. If you half of why climate change scientists have been ignored is because they sound condescending.
Oh, there is that.
Yeah,
There is that.
People think people take that as, oh well, this guy sounds like a real know-it-all, and when they say that, I completely understand why some people get sour about it.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we have to become more than, taking words as such harsh, with such harsh implications.
To stop projecting meaning into words and ways of saying words that don't necessarily have any deeper meaning. In a lot of ways, these people are presenting very good, very empirical science, just in a way that maybe you're not taking as appropriate, I suppose.
Right,
or
and a lot of that condescension that's being perceived is from
has
the
to
fact
do with frustration that they're not accepted.
Yes, is because they are seeing an impending need that we need to start acting on this now.
Or
and so
30 years
they're
ago.
radiating all of that with frustration, and they're radiating all of that with what is perceived as condescension, because they feel it's so important that they start to seem that way, really.
No.
Well, and that could even be a deeper symptom of the established gotta be better than the Smiths sort of mentality that has always sort of resided. Because even, like, I've sort of noticed that even subtly, both in what I would say are rural folks and maybe even city folks. That gotta be better. Well, they just got a brand new 4-wheeler, so I bought 2. Is that
the
maybe
constant cultural one-upping each other?
Is that maybe a symptom of, and that comes back to how everything is so ego-driven.
That's ego.
It totally is.
We're so
100% ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's like a palpable lack of sometimes, not always, but like a palpable lack between these two divides when we're talking about the thinking class versus the working class. And granted, sometimes those bridges cross. Like, Rub's a fucking hardworking guy. I consider myself, I've worked a 40-hour-a-week job since the day I graduated high school. My 17 plus years, I have maintained consistent employment, and that doesn't make me better than anybody.
No.
But
I just wanted to say, like, my ego sparked right there. Just that was an example of exactly what we're talking about. Jonas says, I've worked a 40-hour work week. And again, this is not me. This is me recognizing my ego. Says, well, I work 96 hours a week.
Yeah.
Big fucking deal.
Yeah,
big deal. I'm
right.
not, but I had to suppress
Big
that.
fucking deal,
I had
bro.
to suppress that just now. It did spark. It was there.
And plenty of people would have made the comment.
It was, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Plenty of people are out there in this world are working
But
way more hard
I had
than
to
I
choose to suppress that. It was there. My ego said, oh, you're better than him.
But I feel a sense of pride in the fact that I've consistently maintained employment for damn near 2 decades. I guess, I was kind of raised with that. Gotta work no matter what, no matter if your job sucks, your boss sucks, you're always going to have bills to pay. I was like literally raised knowing that bills were coming in the future.
Oh, yeah. And it was inevitable.
Absolutely.
It needed to be dealt with, and it needed to be prepared for.
Of course. And perhaps that again sort of fuels the dissent between the thinking and working class. But I totally am pitching that goes back for centuries.
Yeah, and as you think about it more, you could definitely see
how many
that.
intelligent people were fucking lynched,
Yeah.
Most of them.
How many people got executed or excommunicated for simply believing that the Earth was round back?
Believing in
Tell me,
empirical observation,
how many?
Yeah.
not believing
Was it-
in something that they were taught, but believing in something that they observed, measured, and witnessed.
Real
Yeah.
quick, enlighten for those of us that don't know here at the Good Talk 5, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot,
Go
but
for it.
like how many people were banished or even killed for believing the Earth was round?
I would have to assume several, because the widely egocentric model that we use today, assuming that the sun was the center of our solar system, got you excommunicated just for believing in that. And that's not even getting to the part with saying the Earth is round yet.
Right.
So even before we had thought of the shape of the Earth and its role in the solar system and the universe,
The geocentric model versus
the
heliocentric.
geocentric versus the egocentric, and that belief was squashed for many, many years by the faith.
Yeah.
And I love it because we're going to springboard here into something that I particularly wanted your expertise on, James. Speaking of the faith and of people who were excommunicated for suggesting the world was round, that's because what? We first thought the Earth was flat.
Yeah, we thought
Did
the
we
Earth
not?
was
Right?
flat and center.
And
Flat
the
and
the
center.
center of the universe.
And they're-
the planets that were observed and were accepted to be there
Right.
revolved all around the Earth, including the sun, until we figured out that the basics of physics stated that the more massive objects are the objects that gets revolved around. Until we actually accepted that belief.
How hard was it to get people to accept that belief?
Oh, very hard. Copernicus himself kept it in his diaries for
Because
well
he was
after
afraid.
died.
Because he was afraid.
Out of fear.
Because if he was excommunicated, they would have taken his work, his year's work, his life's
Burned
work,
it.
and they would have burned it. And
And-
can you imagine if the works of Copernicus, the godfather of modern physics, one of the godfathers, you could say argue Newton there too, but one of the godfathers of modern astronomy and physics would have had his work destroyed. What would that have done to the fabric of humanity?
James, the mere thought literally has my hair standing on end over here. And because when we think about that possibility, the first thing my brain jumps to is how many fucking were destroyed? How many great minds were fucking destroyed?
What
How many great
information are
minds
missing?
That we will never find out about, no matter how much digging we do.
So flat earth theory has recently had a major resurgence.
It has.
And what do you think, like, a major resurgence in believers, and there's all these fancy
Thank you,
YouTube
base
videos.
God.
Yeah, right. There's all these fancy YouTube videos out there, trying to give you this information about how it is flat. And what do you think, first of all, fuels the resurgence of that? Is it just fucking people that want to fuck around and believe in something silly, or like, is it because people are that stupid and easy to fool? And why is it not real? Like, how easy is it to prove that flat Earth is fucking definitely fake?
Well, it's incredibly easy. Just look at the sky at night.
That's it.
That's it.
How and why looking at the sky at night would I know the Earth isn't flat?
Well, the basics of physics and gravitational force suggest that everything wants to be a sphere in the universe, because gravity pulls towards a central point. Now, do I think the people who don't believe that are stupid? No, I think they're uninformed. And there's a very big difference.
Sure.
And I don't know what has caused the resurgence, and we've heard about it
The
more
internet.
and more in the internet.
Trolls.
And maybe it's a
Trolls
part
like
of
me.
wanting to belong to something.
Yeah,
And
there's that.
belonging and being passionate about something. All
Sure.
humans have passion towards something.
Sure.
We just saw it in this election. What
Did we
passion
ever.
can do. And I think having that passion and putting it towards something, you could really start to make a point out of nothing.
Well, and I really enjoy the quote, and I've seen it time and again throughout my life. It is, and Mark Twain said this, and Mark Twain has so many awesome quotes. He's definitely somebody who was a thinker, who has inspired me in my life. But he said it's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them that they've been fooled.
Yep.
It is.
And I'm pretty sure it was Mark Twain who said that. If it wasn't, somebody out there tell me I'm fucking
right,
silly,
Jonah.
but I'm pretty sure I'm
Well,
right.
if you try to convince them they've been fooled, you start to get the ego back into play. No one wants to admit that they were fooled.
Right.
The ego comes back into control.
I have to admit that I was wrong, that somehow I was duped. And,
I love admitting I was wrong.
I'm far too smart to be
Especially
duped.
in front of your guy friends that you want to respect you.
Right.
You don't want to be wrong.
No, because if you're wrong about this, you can be wrong about everything. Now we have to
Absolutely.
call into
You
question
think-
everything you ever say
You
or
think
believe.
your credibility is therefore shot.
Like it's a yes or no question. Like either you are 100% credible all the time, or you are never to be believed ever again.
deal
Suddenly,
in a
the
world of
smartest
absolutes.
friend we all had is casted with this shadow of gloomy doubt over the decades.
And
Like,
we have to take everything he says or believes with this giant grain of salt now because he was wrong about this one thing. That absolutely happens.
everything's fallible,
Because
folks.
French
It's
fries,
possibility.
Absolutely
he believed that
happens.
French fries were made up in France, not the United
Right,
States. That's
right,
So
yeah.
all of his credibility as whatever his profession is now out the window.
He could
because
have
he got that.
He could have a
wrong.
PhD in neuroscience, but now all of a sudden, me who has no business commenting on anything that he says according to his profession, I'm questioning him now.
He could be Stephen Hawking himself, the
Right.
godfather of black hole theory.
Able
And
to
if he doesn't think that sausage pizza is better than pepperoni, then therefore his credibility is zilch.
He just lost it.
And Hawking radiation is bullshit.
Hawking radiation is no more.
That didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
So,
How dare you do differential equations in your head?
flat earthers, we love you as we love everyone who listens to the Good Talk podcast.
Right.
But guys, the Earth is fucking round.
I'd like for you to do some deeper observation and really comparing that to what you see that you know to be true.
Well, and Rob, didn't you reference? No, and James said
James could maybe correct my correction on the flat earthers is that the simple observation, like you said, look to the sky, and in particular, if you're able to traverse the globe quickly or not even quickly, go to, for instance, like Brisbane, Australia, look up and look for Polaris. If you can see Polaris, then you're on a flat plane,
Right,
but
and
you can't.
And
so
the
you're on a globe.
rapper B.O.B. brought
Right.
up a point to Neil deGrasse Tyson when he was the bigger voice that have brought this up lately.
Okay.
The flat Earth theory. Well, he said that the star Polaris did not travel as he went south. It didn't travel upward, which is what you should do if you're on a spherical plane. So
Right.
Neil deGrasse Tyson simply
Well, at a
said,
certain
well,
point,
you
it should
didn't
have
go
to-
far enough.
It would have to disappear
When you-
beyond the horizon.
For instance, one way to prove that we are a sphere is I want you to look at the moon when it rises at night.
Right.
As it approaches a horizon when it's rising, it will become much larger to your eye. And that is because that when you have a spherical plane that is big enough to seem flat, like when we drive on a road,
Right.
that
Like
when
line
you
of sight.
approach the sphere point, a sphere object like the moon becomes much larger.
Now, does that have to do with the elliptical orbit of the moon,
It's a-
or is that like an optical
it's
illusion?
completely an optical
maybe
illusion.
due to refraction because of the.
It's the refracting of light.
the refracting of light through our atmosphere.
How it's behaving going over horizon.
and maybe even being bent a little bit
Yep.
due to the close proximity of the
And if
gravity
you-
of our
if you
planet.
cannot have that on a flat plane. You can
Right.
only have that. And a good way to tell you that this is actually happening is just once you stick your thumb up to that large moon that you think is so large.
Right.
And it's going to cover it.
Yep.
And then wait until it gets in the sky later at night.
Yep.
And I want you to stick that same thumb over it, and it's going to cover the exact same amount
Yep.
as when it did at the horizon.
That proves an illusion.
That proves the illusion, which proves that the Earth is a sphere.
Right.
Not to mention the thousands upon thousands of.
There's a lot
forms.
more than that.
Yeah. Not to mention that everything else in the universe is a sphere.
Right.
I mean, you understand a little bit about physics and what gravity wants to behave like.
It brings everything that is fluid into a sphere naturally.
Everything.
It takes the least amount of energy to pull a fluid into a sphere. And if you believe,
Absolutely.
if you can take the Earth back, at one point it was fluid, or gaseous as almost every other planet is or was. Gravity pulled it into a sphere.
And
Why-
what do you think? How do you
makes
think
us
a
special?
planet like, say, Jupiter?
Right.
Without gravity pulling it towards a sphere, there would be no Jupiter.
No, it would just be a cloud.
It'd just be a cloud along the space, the plane.
It'd be
of space
strung
and time,
out like
revolving around the spherical sun.
around this in a spherical orbit around the spherical sun.
Again, a little bit of knowledge about.
He
the
said through
basics.
gnashed teeth.
A little bit about the basics of physics, you'll realize that everything wants to be a sphere, and that knowing that in general makes everything just a lot more clear.
It all kind of falls into place.
I don't want to be a sphere, James.
Well, thankfully,
due to your free will.
Thankfully, you are not a massive object.
Right.
Well,
because then all of our theories are just way out the window.
According to Rob,
Planet Jonah over here is
there is a part of me that is a
10-dimensional
massive
dodecahedron. That asshole.
I have been accused that part
This is
of
why
me is
people
a
don't
massive
like you,
object.
Jonah.
It's at the top.
Right.
And this really comes back to
Would that be the ego talking? Is
no.
that the massive object?
The big head.
The big
Just
head.
my fat head.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
with you there, my friend.
You're in the big head clan, James.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if you knew about this or not, but there is a secret
that's right. There's
war.
a fight.
We're fighting.
Go back inside.
See, I wasn't sure if we were supposed to release that information here, but now it's out there. Are we free to talk about
This
it?
is the only place we're allowed to talk about it.
Sure.
Right.
But it's the secret war.
Sure.
It's the big head clan versus the little head clan.
We have to shop online for our hats.
Oh, yeah. You can't get them anywhere.
No,
The struggle is
yeah,
real.
go to Shields and see
You're
if
in
you
the
can
big
find
head.
a football hat that fits you. It's not going to happen.
I don't think it's gonna.
Nope.
Wow.
No, so yeah, flat Earth being one of my favorite recent conspiracy theories I've encountered. I'm a big fan of conspiracies.
I think there are definitely things we can learn about from conspiracies.
Sure.
It makes us look twice at things that you may have taken for granted, and I like
It helps
that.
us reevaluate.
I like that.
It should teach you to be open-minded.
That too.
It should.
Don't just throw them all out on
No.
spite.
No, do I think it's hilarious that people think the Earth is flat?
Little bit,
Yes,
yeah, a little
but I try to understand why they feel that way.
Right.
What caused them to wake up one day saying,
You know what? B.O.B.'s got a point.
"Yeah,
I'm going to get into this base god stuff.
Rub thinks like base nectar started it or something.
Base,
like,
no, he worships the based god. I really haven't looked into this, so I shouldn't speak out of class here. But this B.O.B. fella,
Sure,
who is kind of responsible for reigniting this whole debate, he's into this based god.
You're going to credit somebody with the resurgence of flat Earth. I'm sorry, did I
I
miss that?
feel like B.O.B.
Okay.
had a great deal to do with
He's
it.
the one that brought it mainstream.
Oh,
He
okay.
confronted
And
NGT with it.
He did, and that's not a good idea.
No,
Because
don't confront Neil deGrasse Tyson with anything that you are not like.
he kind of went to Columbia, and
He's sort of like one of the smartest people in the world.
yeah, it was a little comical because if you're gonna have somebody try and prove your argument, don't let it be B.O.B., please.
Yeah, right. Can we come up with someone a little bit, just, more, oh gosh, maybe a little more credentialed.
For those that don't
beyond
know,
just-
because I'm one of them, who the fuck is B.O.B.?
He's a rapper. I'll try
He's
to
a
get
rapper.
to the bottom.
He used
You guys,
to sell
what?
he used to just sell beats.
So, he's a rapper.
Yeah, and now he just got
He was,
into the mainstream.
he was like
rap
a
game.
beats salesman?
Yeah, he used to sell. I see where you're going with that.
Like he was peddling for Dre? That's
door
my first
door
thought.
to door.
No, he'd sell he'd go to you say you were rapper A, and he'd make a beat on his computer and be like, hey, you want to buy this beat and write to it.
Okay, so like a music producer.
His
Yeah,
name is
so-
Bobby Ray Simmons Jr.
Okay.
That's his real
Bobby
name.
Ray Simmons Jr. believes the Earth is flat.
BRSG versus
Well-
NDT.
As much as we embrace new thinking here at the Good Talk podcast and want everybody to discuss it with us on our Twitter at the Goodtalk5, that's not one we're backing up here. We're very loud and proud to come out with saying that we're not subscribing to the flat Earth.
No, I mean anything that I can disprove with the basic principles of physics, I'm usually not a subscriber.
Now, here's a silly.
That's a good policy to have.
Here's a silly question, and maybe it's all of them. What planet is most relevant to our solar system? Like, what's the best planet in our solar system?
Well, Jupiter.
It's got to be Jupiter,
My
right?
man.
Yeah, it's Jupiter.
And
Galactic goalkeeper.
yeah,
Not galactic, but
He's the goalie of the net. So,
yeah.
And what do you mean when you say that?
Well, Jupiter's interesting because it was almost a star.
Is it that close, really, in mass?
In the dawn of the universe, there were a lot of elements like hydrogen and helium floating around space.
Yep.
Everything was getting really hot, and when they were really hot, they wanted to collapse due to the laws of physics and gravity. But when it was all merging, if you were hot enough, you might have been able to start to fuse hydrogen and helium. And when you do that, you create nuclear fusion, which creates star.
We could have had a binary sun solar system.
We could have. So,
do you think the Earth would have still came to be if that happened to Jupiter, or just
most likely not? Because thankfully, Jupiter did not have enough helium to do this. It has a lot of hydrogen, but only a little bit of helium. The sun has.
I thought the sun fused helium into hydrogen.
Well,
or excuse me, hydrogen into helium. Only two form
it will.
Deuterium and tritium
it
or
will,
something
but it
like
also
that
was not hot enough, and the ratio between the existing helium and the hydrogen has to be correct.
Right.
So it wasn't correct on Jupiter, and it just didn't quite get large enough.
Okay.
Now we think of Jupiter as a massive object already, and it sure is.
It's huge.
It could be comparable to some of the dwarf stars in the universe. However, you need to be able to get hot enough, and because it formed far enough away from the existing star that it didn't get hot enough, it didn't become a star itself. Now, if that were to happen, things got real interesting in the dawn of our solar system. The rocky objects would not have collapsed together like they were. They would have been drawn to the higher mass objects like the existing sun and the new Jupiter sun. If you want to call it a sun, I'll call it a star here.
It'd be a star.
It'd be a star. So if that were to happen, odds are your inner planets, like any of the Rockies, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, would not exist. They would not have had the material.
Would
They
we
would've
have been,
got- they
like
would've got
that,
pulled
that
right
material
in.
would have been
They would have got pulled right into the high mass objects, and Jupiter
due to
almost
like
did that.
scattering because of new sources of solar wind, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, solar wind almost shredded the rocky planets to begin
If you'd have
with.
gotten two sources of solar wind in
two
such
sources
close
of
proximity,
solar wind in close proximity would have created close
I think
to
it would
some
have
sort of a star
ionized
cluster.
most of that gas.
Yeah, it would have been ionized almost instantly.
It'd just be we'd just be a nebula of plasma and junk.
We'd be something resembling a nebula.
Right.
if Jupiter wasn't there, it would be like the Earth was a suspended fucking punching bag for Mike Tyson from the 80s.
It absolutely would.
Like we would just be getting like our how many, like, our population would be 10% of what it is now. If Jupiter wasn't out there,
Oh, sure.
fucking just, we'd be getting pelted. Every
Well,
day,
and the thing
you'd
is-
wake up every day, and you wouldn't be worrying if it was rain or sunshine. You'd be worrying if
Will there be a meteor
will
today?
there be a fucking meteor today that rips apart half of my local village?
It never would have been calm enough on the Earth for long enough for life to have emerged without
No,
Jupiter.
you need it. You need.
But what
you
if it
need-
did its job half as well? There'd be, you know.
That's an
we'd
interesting
get-
question.
Purely hypothetical.
I mean,
Of
and
course,
we
well,
take-
it's fun.
We take something for granted called the inhabitable zone,
Right.
and it's something we take for granted all the time. How unique and how special this planet
little
is to be able to
Goldilocks zone.
support
Oh, it's crazy.
life. We haven't found another planet in the universe.
We got so
quite
lucky.
Like it.
Well, and that's why I like to sort of think about the perfection of this universe. And I asked Rub this the other day too,
Even
James.
the laws of physics themselves,
Well,
strong and weak nuclear force,
like-
electromagnetism and gravity, change them at all.
It all.
And all of a sudden we have no universe.
it
Like
all
we have no
comes together
matter.
so nicely to make a universe.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that
like you got to
convenient?
stack it perfectly.
Yeah, you do.
And
so
it kind of
perfect.
plays into
we
a
take it for
multiverse
granted.
theory.
We go to work every day. We don't realize how irrelevant we are, first of all. And
Right.
then we never think about how awesome we have it
How tenuous it all is.
and how fragile it could be.
Right.
The fact that if one thing changed in the dawn of the universe, the dawn of our solar system, that nothing we know of would be the same.
Or even possible.
Right, if Jupiter had formed, the inhabitable zone would be miles different. So for instance, like if Jupiter hadn't formed, Jupiter controls a lot of the tidal forces of like asteroids and meteors. So
Jupiter doesn't get enough credit from the American
Oh,
people.
it doesn't.
Or from anybody on this Earth.
We need to learn
Okay.
to. When I view Jupiter in my telescope, you'll realize how large it is. First of all, I mean, just to be able to see something that large, that's so far away, it's an incredible.
Pretty good feeling.
I could be mistaken, but I think Jupiter has moons that are bigger than Earth.
Oh yeah. And
That's incredible.
For instance, we think Europa, its moon, has life at the organic level,
Highly possible.
and that will be something that hopefully.
To clarify, Europa is a moon of Jupiter.
Yes. We think that Europa has a liquid underbelly, per se, where if you were to drill, and if you're not familiar with the Planetary Society, I encourage you to look it up.
Give him a plug.
Yeah, Bill Nye is the CEO of the Planetary Society. A lot of you will know Bill Nye from your childhood,
Of course.
where he hosted his show. But now he's a CEO of a organization that Carl Sagan himself started called the Planetary Society, and which
Pretty good bloodline.
pretty good bloodline. So you know they're legit, and I happen to be a member. And one thing that we push for is trying to get specifically our Congress to see that space travel is much more important than a lot of the problems we think we have.
Okay, and so coming back to space travel, and I love that you mentioned that. I have a lot of friends, and I'm gonna put them in the working class group.
Yeah.
Who say fuck NASA? It's so stupid. Why? You know, I've like almost verbatim. I have people who have said, "Wow, we send a fucking rocket into outer space. Well, you know, what does that benefit me in my everyday life? Like, it doesn't. I still got to wake up and drive to work, and like, how does that help me? How does that help me?
I feel a little sad when I hear that, and
I'm sure you've heard it. You guys have heard it, right?
Collective facepalm.
Collective facepalm, and it's not that I'm upset that you have that opinion. I'm upset that you don't appreciate what we have. The fact that
or that you don't want to understand it further.
The current administration wants to privatize space travel, and
right.
that has its perks, but it has its drawbacks. But
yeah, they don't have to share the information they garnish.
Yeah, and one of the drawbacks is that if we didn't do this as a nation, how together did we become in 1969 when we landed on the moon?
That was a big deal.
That was huge. Now, the next step is Mars.
Big step for giant leap for mankind, not just America.
Mars dwarfs the moon achievement.
Oh, big time.
And if we get there, what a sense of national pride if we do it.
World pride, human pride.
And thankfully, we have guys like Elon Musk who are champions among the world.
Big admirer.
And
big time. Shout out to Elon Musk,
who was a genuine fan.
But you're still
space travel.
You're still. I'm pegging you here. You're kind of You're dancing around the question.
Yeah.
How you know, I'm a guy that I want cheaper gas and I want better education and you know, I fucking want the biggest truck and the best defense. I mean, you know, how does spending $18 billion on NASA benefit me when we could use that money to help veterans or the poor?
Well, sure, and you could make that case about anything we sink money into.
Yes, you could.
And I'm not whatever, you know, and I'm not trying to pressure you because
absolutely.
I love
these are the
NASA.
questions
It's a
that,
good
But
question.
these are questions
you're going to be
people come up
confronted with
in everyday society. I've had people say that about NASA, like fuck it, like, and I've loved it all my life.
It's a very good question, and it's one that needs to be asked because there are smart people who believe the same as your friends do.
Yes.
And what I would say to them is we have to think a little larger than ourselves here. When we have an opportunity to explore something that's larger than all of us, to land somewhere where no human has been before, to truly understand something like another planet, to put an American flag on its surface.
I'd rather put the human flag
I'd
there.
put that Earth flag on
the
there.
Earth flag.
I'd like to,
you know,
too.
much love. I know it's going to be NASA and America.
Nothing
but,
wrong with America, but humans are so much better than Americans.
America. I'm glad I'm here.
I do agree that we need to get rid of the nationalism when it comes to space travel because if it worked for multiple nations,
our
multiple
biggest
nations.
steps.
Right now we rely on Russia to get us to the nearest space station.
Multinational stuff.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So this is not ideally on that Mars craft we stick multiple people for different nations. Now, it will not be like that. It sounds like there's going to be all Americans or they're all going to be English speaking.
I want to take that one-way trip.
Wouldn't it be sweet? That's what Elon
I'd
Musk wants to do.
I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Wouldn't that be sweet? Okay.
No, we can't send Elon Musk.
No, we're not sending Elon Musk.
Okay.
No, he can send me.
We will
We
send,
can't send
the
him.
disciples
Yeah.
of Elon Musk who want to
Okay.
carry the mission.
Like-
I think a good question.
We're all going to shave our
Good question
heads
to
and
the
drink
audience.
Kool-Aid.
Would you take that trip?
Yeah, that's a fun question. Would you be willing to take the one-way trip to another planet?
100%. Yes.
Yes.
I would not. Not at this point in
Well,
my life.
you have-
I don't have enough to gain.
Exactly. I have nothing to lose.
Sure.
Simply put.
Right.
I'm good.
I'm single. I'm in my 20s.
That's
I'm
really
single.
cool. Like, there was a time in my life when I did say, as a young man, that, hey, whenever the first exploration into a black hole happens, I want to go. And, you know, I'd probably get ripped in half, according to science and physics.
Get spaghettified.
That wouldn't end well.
I've seen enough sci-fi movies to know that maybe I come out the other
You've seen
side.
Interstellar. Have you
Maybe
seen
I come out. Yeah, I have. maybe I come out the other side of fucking God. You know, you don't know.
That's something that's so awesome. That's one of the reasons why I love space so much. Is because isn't it beautiful that we don't know something?
Well,
that's what keeps us going.
We don't know
that's what keeps me going.
We don't know what's in the other side of the event horizon of a black hole.
Right.
We don't know, and is that not beautiful?
That's amazing. Even though on one of our former Goodtalk5 questions, I went with, because I felt it was more immediately beneficial. We talked about space exploration versus oceanic exploration.
Yeah.
And because realistically,
both critical
both
frontiers of science.
both critical. And we had a listener, and I want to give a shout out to Ashley Jelson for not only participating but listening and being awesome.
That was a great response.
Well, she was awesome. She brought forth the idea of underwater sort of existences that we may not be aware of, and maybe even the potential of dolphins being a highly intelligent, interconnected society with different languages and different communities,
and hence untrustworthy.
Totally untrustworthy.
I would never trust a dolphin.
No.
The assholes of the sea.
But that was cool, and that was cool of her to suggest that, and we like that. We like listener participation. So, hey, if you guys want to jam with us, we're always open to communication on our Facebook and Twitter, Good Talk the Podcast, and at the Goodtalk5. Hit us up. Let us know what you're thinking about some of this. And what are beneficially some of the more mundane day-to-day technologies that you've seen that are kind of like maybe helping people who want to be independent and free themselves as we learn to apply and look to apply new lines of thinking? Like, what have you seen that is sort of, that you could think of, changed the way a person can live or cohabitate or,
I'm gonna, this is a little deep.
Yeah.
I think the laser.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I want you to think of something quick.
How important
I'm gonna direct off the question for a second because I want to.
It's fine.
I want to try and blow your minds for a second.
Oh, that's what I live for.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Albert Einstein. Okay, might be the smartest man to ever walk the earth.
Maybe. Okay. Certainly one of.
Yeah, definitely in the Mount Rushmore of smart people. Let's be honest.
Rightfully so.
I love it.
We talk a lot about right now. We're living in the age where something's being underappreciated. The detection of gravitational waves.
Booyah!
And how that happens is Einstein predicted.
Yeah, without a laser, we would have never detected them.
In the middle of his life, he's like, okay, I know that two black holes can collide.
Right.
And when they collide, they send ripples through space and time.
Huge amounts of energy.
And one day, we're going to be able to predict when this happens, when we feel this, because they're going to hit Earth eventually. And then, years before he died, he set out the mathematical equations for the basis of the laser. Mm-hmm. And little did he know,
it would be the laser that
when we turned the laser on, it's called LIGO, to detect gravitational waves. Through all of his work and his research and his theories, we detected it only minutes after we turned the laser on. Wow. We detected our first gravitational wave from two black holes that collided years and years.
Billions of
years before our solar system even existed.
What the fuck? How does that even work?
These were two black holes that were, I believe, 100 solar masses each,
yes,
and at the point of collision, they were traveling at half the speed of light.
Yeah, and when I looked at the math behind
that's how much energy is in there.
I'm like, holy crap, space is awesome.
Yeah,
because we looked at the pure energy that two black holes
inconceivable
can produce, and then they collide.
At those speeds.
The output of the
energy is mass times velocity squared. So you're talking
incredible. At
that speed plus that mass, that collision.
It sent ripples through space and time.
Bent the universe.
Well, it had to, because as you approach a black hole already, time slows.
Right.
So imagine two of those hitting each other. What did it do to space and time?
Especially in the immediate vicinity of the collision.
Yes, and when a gravitational wave hits Earth, we get slowed down by a very, very
almost immeasurable.
Immeasurable.
Right, but it does happen.
But it happens.
It does happen.
Every time we detect one, we are a little bit younger than we otherwise would have been.
And stretched out.
Which is also proof that time travel is indeed possible.
Sure. On very minute scales, given a massive amount of energy, yes, but it's there.
Einstein knew. He's like, okay, well, I can look at the stars at night and tell you time travel is possible already.
Absolutely.
For instance, when you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, you are looking at light that was emitted when dinosaurs walked our planet.
Right.
And when you see it at night, that light's been traveling since the dinosaurs walked on our planet.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you look at the stars at night, that light has been traveling through 3+ years.
That is so hard, even for a deep thinker like me, to fucking wrap your head around.
It's so much fun, though.
But isn't it so beautiful?
Oh, it is. It's just poetic.
It's incredible. So lasers contributed more to, you think, our general well-being
because it has
and,
so many
and
applications.
understanding.
Yep.
I love it. Okay.
We use lasers in lathes to machine parts. We use lasers in
Medicine.
medical technology to help people who are blind.
Excise
be able to see
tumors.
to laser the laser technology in medicine is going to revolutionize the way we do medicine.
Already
during
has,
our
and will
lifetime.
continue to do so.
Exactly.
Yeah, it definitely already has been.
Look at the procedures that can be done by lasers today. Used to be major surgeries.
Right.
And off the top of my head, any form of eye surgery.
Look at,
So let me tell you where
LASIK.
lasers will
just zap
stop.
you in 20 minutes and you're out the door.
Yep.
They've just used a laser on your
All
cornea.
because Einstein figured out that you can supercharge photons and focus them to one point.
On one coherent beam.
One coherent beam.
Yep.
Lasers are going to stop the moment that some amazing bastard finds a way to energize everything
weaponize
and
it.
produce free produce free
Plenty
energy
of
with
laser
it.
weapons
Okay,
already.
I thought you were going somewhere.
No,
with
no,
a
no.
lot
more on the
careful
horizon.
with that.
I have a more, I guess, pure concept, and I like to think of like free energy. What can we do to produce our own energy? What are people doing? And like people are trying to find more ways to, I don't want to say be off the grid, but in a lot of ways, we're slaves. And rightfully so, because I love electricity, but we're sort of slaves to that system right now and paying into that. And as we become more intelligent, start developing, whether it's solar energies or it's these, I've seen like these little independent river turbines now that if you live sort of near a river, these people are like throwing in a fucking river turbine and like linking it up to their house. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Like, so, obviously we have to be deeply appreciative of the way that energy is established right now in our country. The problem I am seeing is an inherent fear from those established powers that they don't want people to isolate themselves from that need of being a part of the utility services.
And that we are afraid of change at the base level of all of this. Not to mention that.
Well, you and I aren't afraid of change,
Yeah.
but the fucking utility company that has a $4.5 billion interest in the American
They're
electrical
very
power
vested
grid,
in fearing change.
they fucking are terrified of you throwing a goddamn river turbine in the fucking river out behind your house. Because I got one out behind my house. I guarantee if I went and threw a river turbine in there and started juicing my house up, it'd be like minutes before like some city official was here fucking with me and telling me I can't do that. Like, have you guys seen these river turbines, Rob? I think you've seen them.
Yeah, I'm looking
Let's
at
talk about them.
I'm looking at the website right now.
I think these are fucking cool.
This particular one. Of course, there's different sizes and scales of moving water turbines. They don't necessarily have to be a river. It can be stream, any kind of moving water.
Sure, there you go. River's the easy example.
This one in particular that I'm looking at right now is just something simple you can carry in your backpack. It's used to charge your camera or your phone if you're out hiking. It's neutrally buoyant, so it kind of hangs out in the middle of the stream and uses that moving water to turn a turbine, which produces probably
Now, is this hooking up
3 or
like
4 volts at maybe
amazing.
a half an amp or
There's-
so.
there's
It's
like
not going to be a tremendous amount
slightly
of
bigger
power
ones now?
produced. Oh yeah, they scale them way up.
Oh, I'm sure they've huge that power
all
cities.
the way
It's
to
hydroelectricity.
industrial
But
uses, but
it's just now seems to be working its way into residential or
and a lot of that,
camping
Jonah,
merit.
a lot of that has to do with our space program. In that, our space program helps us to understand how to miniaturize things and how to make things very efficient. It costs a lot of money in order to put something into space, something like $10,000 per kilogram to put something into orbit. And that necessitates the need to make things very lightweight, very maneuverable, and efficient.
Yeah.
And when we start to see miniature type electronic devices like this with very high efficiency batteries and very mobile and portable designs,
you can put this in your backpack
certainly
right here.
attribute that technology to the space program.
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff that we
has-
produce.
And folks, we're going to be sharing these links real quick. James, hold that thought. Please share. We're going to be sharing these links on our Facebook and Twitter because this shit is really cool. These are people out here camping and kayaking, utilizing like a river hydroelectricity system.
Yep.
And we need to move away from oil. And it doesn't mean that oil is wrong or bad.
Baby steps.
We're
Baby
always
steps.
Yes, we're always going to need it. Like, I understand
Baby
that.
steps.
But, like, I get so frustrated by the mentality of, wow, if you don't want to use oil, then stop using your cell phone and stop driving your car and don't have heat in your house.
A yes or no thing.
No.
It just has to be a conscious and steady progression from one technology to the
Drives me
next.
nuts.
It's not going to happen overnight. We have a tremendous and complicated infrastructure that is 100% based around fossil fuels. Are we going to be able to switch that all overnight based on any technology that has even been postulated? No, absolutely not. It's going to take time. It's going to take progress. This is progress. These things will happen. Be patient. Be patient.
And the
It's
most
not a
common
yes or no
criticism
thing.
you see about green energy is the cost.
Right.
And one thing I always tell people who are skeptical about cost, I happen to think that solar is the future.
Yeah,
It's
I agree. Very much agree.
One thing I tell these people is I want you to go to Best Buy for a second. I want you to look at the brand new 4K TVs and what they cost.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want you in 5 to 6 years to go back to Best Buy. And I want you to see how much those 4K TVs
Now we're
cost
talking.
then. The laws of innovation state that when a technology is brand new, it's going to cost its premium price.
Right.
But as we find ways to innovate, to make things smaller, to make things cheaper with the raw materials we have, then the cost will come down. It's just it's the laws of economics doing with technology and how it innovates itself. Yep. And we're now seeing solar panels that can fit on top of your house.
We're getting there. They're going to be expensive. The ones
of
that
course.
Elon Musk introduced,
Tesla's solar roof
are definitely expensive. But again, like you said, that's introductory stages.
And Elon Musk will innovate that.
You betcha.
I agree.
I guarantee in his mind, outside of all the SpaceX awesomeness that's going on
That's
right
part
now,
of it.
Oh,
he's
He
thinking,
wants to give people energy.
Yeah,
he does.
he's thinking about ways to make that.
He
cheaper.
shares.
How
Tesla's
can I
dream.
put that on every house in the world?
Yep. Well, the problem is when you put that on every house of the world, and we've already seen this in we're by no means political, and we're never going to be that way on our podcast. But sometimes the political machinations of our society are going to overlap with where our thoughts go. So I just want to sort of forefront that. But
sad but true.
if we were, in my mind, using solar to the best of our ability, and if it wasn't being hindered every step of the way, I feel like we could set up an entire fucking field of solar farms through Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, feed that all into the grid and create enough energy to the point that nobody has to pay for it anymore. And I remember seeing recently in a state where people who had supported solar energy in their houses were able to take in more energy than their house needed.
Right.
Therefore, the state owed them fucking money. Guess what happened afterward? Lobbyists the next year worked to create legislation to put more fees and restrictions on producing solar energy because some lucky bastard created more energy through his solar panels than his house needed, and the state fucking owed him money.
That one sounds like a conspiracy, but it's actually
No, that's
quite
100%
true. That
fucking
is 100% true.
That really happened.
That really did.
Yeah,
It drives me fucking crazy, and yet there's still people that, want to insist oil is the only way we can do it. And again, oil is essential to our functionality
Today,
as a daily
today,
society.
here and now, yes.
Today. But we used to need a computer the size of a fucking house to do what your iPhone or Samsung or the LG
do
V10
what a
does.
pocket calculator
in the palm of your hand.
could do. let alone your iPhone. Your iPhone.
Remember when graphing calculators were the top of the line technology?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
no longer.
One thing that we think about is everything we seem to think about in society these days is in absolutes.
Oh, isn't it that way?
And green energy and green technology is a victim of this.
Definitely.
Where one side of the spectrum you have oil, the other side of the spectrum you have the brand new green technologies that are going to become a booming industry, but the other side of the spectrum senses that this might affect their absolute.
We get this fall into this us versus them mentality so easily, and that's ubiquitous. It goes across any kind of measure where you can choose to entertain one idea or the other. All of a sudden, it becomes me versus you, us versus them.
Yeah, and it can't be that way. We are all in this together. I mean, that sounds very melancholy almost, but we are all in this together. And I said this right after the election.
It's not melodramatic at all.
Election. It's not whether you dislike a candidate or like a candidate.
Right.
It's that we are all supportive of whatever this is.
Right.
And one thing that we need to see, especially in energy, is we need to see cohesion.
Yes.
And how we're going to get cohesion is that we need to get these green technologies to convince the Exxons of the world to say, hey,
that there's money to be made.
Why don't you invest?
Yep. If there's money to be made, then they'll do
in
it.
Texas. One. And see where you can make money on it.
Yep.
And that's the first step.
You'll watch that technology go through the roof so fast your head will spin.
That's the first step. Now, ideally,
you get oil money behind green energy,
and eventually you create free energy. But that's the first step.
Quote,
you need to convince companies that you can make a profit on it.
Well, and therein lies the problem. And guys like me want to seek out ways where our life becomes easier.
Sure.
And what you're doing is making the world, quote unquote, cleaner, better. But it's not changing anything for fucking me. My bill's still going to be this much.
You're still going to charge you more right away because it's this brand new green technology.
They're like, hey, guess what, everybody? We're making the world a better place so we can fucking charge you an extra $75 a month on your utilities.
Every single month.
And we
still trying to run a business here.
We've got to stop fucking monetizing human needs.
Yeah, and I have no problem with a company wanting to make a profit. My problem, again, I agree with you, Jonah. My problem is that we are monetizing human needs.
Yes.
And this is if you've ever read the book, have you seen the movie The Big Short?
Not yet. I am familiar though.
You should listen. It's a very informative. In the book is incredible, and they talk about how.
Keep going. No, you're fine.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. So
in The Big Short. And you know where that's leading to the budget on solar impacts, and you know why we can't bridge the gap. Why is money in control? Why can we not set aside profit and human need? Profiteering human
basic human need for survival.
Yeah, okay. That's
feeling the need to profit off.
I think we've all heard somebody who is upset about how hospitals have become profitized over the years.
Oh, sure.
We all know someone on all levels of life.
That's not a basic human need, but
yeah. What I was going to say is the investor that saw the housing crisis coming and tried to warn the government. His name is Michael Burry. And
so The Big Short is about the housing crisis,
yes,
right?
Okay?
And
what affected millions of people.
Yeah, and how the big banks didn't see it coming because they saw dollar signs in their eyes and selling these subprime mortgages. But besides the point, Michael Burry saw this coming, invested all of his positions' money on it, and paid off billions of dollars at the cost of everybody. But he said at the end, he's like, "I'm done investing. The only thing I see how businesses behave." The only thing he invests in is water now. Think about that. The guy who saw the housing crisis coming.
Everything.
He knows there's a water crisis coming.
Yeah.
All he's investing in is water now.
No, there really is. Vice has covered the water crisis actually in several different incredible articles.
Love Vice.
I do too. Vice has actually, has inspired me a lot throughout my life, and just their presentation of information and the outside view I always felt they have.
And they take an exceptional position about polarizing topics. For instance, one thing I thought Vice did incredibly well was the Martin Shkreli problem that happened last year, where he bought Daraprim, the drug Daraprim, and jacked the price up.
Martin
Well, everybody
Shkreli,
else was
real quick. He had the EpiPen, folks, and he brought it from what $100 to like $1,400.
Yeah,
that wasn't
No, that's a
Shkreli.
different one.
That wasn't Shkreli.
Oh fuck!
Shkreli took it's for a disease called toxoplasmosis.
Okay.
A very, very rare disease, and it's an outdated drug.
Oh.
So Shkreli's company bought it, and they jacked up the price, and he got a lot of heat for that. Vice did a very exceptional job of letting him tell his story without leading him on to say anything different. And I encourage you to look that interview up to see what incredibly responsible journalism is. Because that was case in point what journalism should be.
They could have very easily pushed a narrative on their listeners and
easily
just
could have
vilified
said,
this
Martin
guy.
Shkreli is a poisonous lunatic who only serves to gain
line
a
his
profit.
own pockets.
And he is trying to gain a profit.
There is that. There is that.
But I will say sometimes Vice in their social media platforms.
But there's logic behind what's going on here.
Yeah, they do create some clickbait titles. However, from a journalistic standpoint, I have never felt in reading Vice that I was being pushed toward a specific ideology.
Exactly, which is what journalism should be.
Definitely.
It is. Now,
you report the news, let me decide how to feel about it.
to be my own devil's advocate, is it... I like to claim myself as being a progressive. Is that an ideology? Being progressive in terms of my point of wanting to apply new thinking to solve old problems, to being open to new ideas. I call myself a progressive.
The term is becoming very
It's becoming very
stigmatized.
It's being stigmatized in the fact that people
why?
are. They're intertwining it with the very far left, which is not what it should be.
Right. No.
Progressivism is very different than being a Democrat.
Like, how do you see that? Because I want to claim myself as being a quote progressive person, but if you're applying some sort of weird political status to that, what status is fucking being applied there? You know, because when I say I'm progressive, that means, I want to see the drug war end. I support harm reduction. I want to see less people in prison. I want to see more people thinking and getting education. Like, I want to see less war, less violence, less money necessary for defense, because we are unifying. None of these seem to me like political concepts. They feel to me like they're fucking human concepts. They're fucking moral concepts.
And they are.
The complaint people have on those points, and I think they're very good points that I believe in as well.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
What people say is those are liberalist positions, and that's where, at least in my own experience, when I say that, I get accused of being far left, which I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
So
isn't that just frustrating?
Yeah, and but it's at the same side. The people who I know, people like me, who take ideas that are maybe libertarian, and put them far right, which is not the case.
No.
Again, it comes back to cohesion.
Right.
I mean, we need to seek
Can we
understanding.
Get some damn consistency?
Again, we operate right now. The social paradigm is saying if you are not on one side, you must be on the other. We deal in absolutes, and only a Sith
I'm on the
deals
side
in
of
absolutes.
progress, brother.
Only a Sith deals in absolute.
It's amazing. I'm so glad you could bring a Star Wars reference in the end here. I guess the internet would have us, even when you look up, I had to Google it now since we're just kind of on the subject a little bit here, but according to Google, progressive, right under it being a noun, is a person advocating or implementing social reform or new liberal ideas.
Okay.
And
so you may as well look up liberal while you're at it then and try to define that.
And try to define that.
What is or is not truly liberal. What is liberal today would have been pretty far askew from what it would have been 10 or even 5 years ago.
I guess I want to... Maybe liberal is right, because I want less laws. I want less people in prison.
Maybe liberal in the sense that we think of liberal as...
That's not what that means anymore,
No.
though.
Well, we think of liberal as whatever the DNC is these days. Like, it's...
Right,
But it's
yeah.
not...
But it's not
obviously,
that.
we just saw in this election the DNC doesn't believe in liberal perspective.
Right.
So.
Well, the definition of liberal would be like to have liberty from law, right?
Yes.
Well, also let's also look at the fact that the Democratic Party and hence the liberal faction that seems to embody that actually wants to instigate a lot more laws and a lot more control over Wall Street and over the economy of energy sectors and things like that. Well, so that's not real true liberalism as you were to define it.
What you're selling me there, and what
I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's not liberalism.
I think what culture, that is kind of what culture and perhaps portions of the media have sort of made this mutant out of what it is to be liberal.
Yes.
And real quick, we're getting to a close, but I want to say, according to Google, if you say what is a liberal, you are open to new behavior or opinions and willing to discard traditional values.
That would be like social liberalism.
That is progress. That is new thinking. That is new ideas.
Right.
I don't fear those. And my friends, I know, Chris Rubb, you do not. I know, James Owens, you do not. People of the world, stop fearing new ideas. We love you here at the Goodtalk5. Please seek us out on Twitter at the Goodtalk5. Find us on Facebook. We're the Good Talk Podcast. And I want to give a special thanks tonight. We would not have had this episode without the help of my good buddy Kev Davick and Lee Keller here of Minot, who in a scramble helped us get a third mic. Rob, I know you got a few call-outs from some websites we shared today.
A couple call-outs. Thanks again for the mic. That's the one I'm using tonight. Planetary Society. James here's a member. We can find that at planetary.org. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's planetary.org. I've just logged onto the website during the talk. I haven't really dug into it yet, but rest assured I'll be doing so. Let me just see here real quickly.
And as always, we do fully support the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, as well as Steve Wilson. He's the artist who does all of our episode art. We're really proud of that. You can now find us on iTunes as well. And we will definitely be having James back on our podcast. It's been a real treat tonight, James. Anything, closing thoughts that you want to share with the Good Talk world?
No, I think this is an excellent podcast that really hits something I want to listen to.
I had a lot of
fun.
fun.
Sure. And anytime you guys want to have me back, I am more than happy to come. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we're excited to have you back. As always, please, folks, if you like us, share us. If you hate us, share us. If you love us, share us twice. This was our first guest. We went a little longer because of that, and maybe when we have guests, we will go longer. But we love you at the Good Talk 5. Find us on Twitter.
Good talk.